So Killer Instinct 2 looks like it might not be in development. Let's talk about it. So on the latest episode of RDX, Dealer Gaming actually had a really good show. I'll definitely put the link to the podcast in the description, so definitely go check that out, give them some love. It was a very good show, and I want you guys to enjoy the contents to the source behind this video. But on that show, there was actually some information that came to surface by an ex-employee of Microsoft. And I wanted to go over a little bit because he had a couple things to say about Killer Instinct in particular. And I wanted to really highlight that section of the podcast. So RDX had Rukari, you know, the dude on Inside Xbox that saves every single show that they do. And it actually turns out that Rukari's actually been in a lot of different positions in Microsoft. And one of them actually was the community manager for Killer Instinct. So he's got a lot of perspective when it comes to the Killer Instinct brand and what they've been doing over there at Microsoft for the past couple years. We'll be going over a little bit of what is actually in the podcast. I want to go over a couple of the standpoints that was made about Killer Instinct. So Diller just plain out asked him, is Killer Instinct 2 in development, yes or no? And here was his response.
I was actually going to ask Rukari about this because, Rukari, you were the community manager for Killer Instinct, were you not?
Yep, that I was.
So go ahead and tell us what the next one's called when it's coming out.
Killer Instinct 2 does not exist, so sadly. It's going to come out in your hopes and dreams whenever you choose to go to sleep at night.
Now, keep in mind before we go any further that he no longer is part of the company in terms of salary. He is a independent contractor that they do for Inside Xbox. But as of time when he left, which was, it seems like a couple months ago, his knowledge is that this game was not in development whatsoever. And then Diller wanted to double check, make sure exactly, you know, get all his T's crossed, all his I's, and, you know, clarify, are you sure that, you know, this game isn't being in development? And Rukari had this to say about that.
So well, that's something that you really believe, that Killer Instinct 2 is not in production? It's not real, it won't be real?
Yes and no. So I think I've seen how quickly games can be greenlit. So yeah, you ask me right now, absolutely it's not real, but it's real in everybody's hearts and that they all love it, and the team that worked on it. I mean, we sit around at lunch whenever we get back together, and I've gone back to the office multiple times since leaving, and that's what we talk about. Like, wouldn't it be fun if, we've got ideas for this and that, but it takes a perfect storm to make stuff like that happen.
So after that, Diller presses him a little bit on, you know, maybe since this is such a great game and such a big game for Microsoft, that maybe another studio perhaps could be making a Killer Instinct 2. And this is what his response was to that.
Now, are you sure, though, that the guy next to you with the really big sandwich on his phone isn't really just streaming Killer Instinct 2 on xCloud and you just don't know about it? I mean, is it possible they're hiding that from
you?
So
the joke is, because there was, maybe 7, 8 of us. I want to say it was Adam Ice Cream, James Goddard, myself, Dave McCrate. There were just a handful of, or Ernest Yen, handful of people that worked on this thing. So if it were to come from anywhere, it'd be from one of those few folks. So yes, I know that nobody random has it, because we'd all make sure that we got our hands on it first to guide it in the proper direction.
Now, Dilla talks a little bit on the fact that Microsoft has actually been sending surveys out to people, asking them, do they prefer a new installment entirely, like a completely fresh game, a sequel from Killer Instinct 1, or do its fans prefer them just to continuously update the existing Killer Instinct that is on your Xbox today? And this is what his response was to that.
I kind of had some hopes, because they did send out a survey asking about, would you like us to just keep updating the first one or actually make a sequel, like traditionally? And I was hoping...
Because you have to put options in those things, right? You have to kind of see where people's headspaces are at. And from what I gather, business side of it, fighting games only represent, 5% of revenue for games that are released in any given year? Yeah. And we know it's the shooters, it's the sports games. That's why you see Madden 538 and NBA 2K20 and all that. But that's where the money is, and you can say, well, it's just a cash grab, but that's you voting with your dollar.
One thing I really want to point out in this, this interview that RDX had with him is he points out that games can easily get greenlit from one day to another, and this is what he said about that particular subject.
So no, it's one of those things that could happen at any time, and sometimes they take things like, I was already gone at this point, but when Max did his Bring Back KI video, and stream, and everyone got together again. And it was fun to see. Sometimes it just takes those small catalysts to show that there is, or there are people that love this IP and these characters, and that, you know, you could make something happen, or it's the right play to make, whether or not it's lucrative from a revenue standpoint, but actually better for a kind of perception standpoint. There's a lot that you could point to. So right now, no, I don't think it's happening.
There is actually a really good chance that this game isn't in development right now. You heard it from, you know, an ex-employee at Microsoft. I want to point out that he never came out openly and said that he knows for a fact, 100% fact, that this game is not or is in development. He's just talking from a perspective of someone that worked there a couple months ago, and the environment and the energy that he got from that certain game while he worked there. But it's like I said, it's like he said in this interview, sometimes stuff gets greenlit the next day. So it could have easily, between now and then, went into some type of development. Do I think that? Probably not. I would say that this game is being held close to the vest until they get a little bit more interest. Maybe it could be in development for the launch of the next Xbox, for the lock card and the Anaconda, and you know, that might be necessarily something they want to do because they want to introduce the next gen Xbox with the game that came out at the beginning of this gen. But anyway, you guys tell me what you guys think. Put it in the comment section below. Like I said, definitely go in that description, get that link, go over there and watch RDX. It was a fantastic episode. And until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.